Hello, everyone. This video is much shorter than the last, but no less interesting. It's about the Air Force's Caldwell investigation under Project Sign of a missing Maryland inventor's prototype flying saucers. Considering said prototypes were discovered in an abandoned barn in Glen Burnie, Maryland, back in 1949, there isn't much information about the incident readily available compared to other topics I normally cover. With that being said, let's get right into it. Project Sign was an official U.S. government study of unidentified flying objects undertaken by the United States Air Force and active from 1948 to 1949 and was the precursor to Project Grudge. The project was established in 1948 by Air Force General Nathan Farragut Twining, head of the Air Technical Service Command, and was initially named Project Saucer. The goal of the project was to collect, evaluate, and distribute within the government all information relating to UFO sightings on the premise that they might represent a national security concern. On April 27, 1949, the U.S. Air Force publicly released a report document prepared by the Intelligence Division of the Air Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson Field, Ohio. It stated that while some UFOs appeared to represent actual aircraft, there was not enough data to determine their origin. Almost all cases were explained by ordinary causes. However, the report recommended continuation of sighting investigations. Project Sign was first asserted in the 1956 book, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, by retired Air Force Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, who later directed Project Blue Book. In this, he also claimed that Sign had produced a top-secret estimate of the situation, which concluded UFOs were real. No copy of this document or any other corroboration of Ruppelt's claim has been produced, and Popular Mechanics said the report was probably more mythological than real. In a hearing of the 89th Congress, second session on January 18, 1966, Lieutenant Mendel Rivers asserted no such estimate had ever existed. Project Sign was followed by Project Grudge after a conclusion was reached that UFO reports could be exploited by a foreign power to induce panic in the population and were therefore a military issue in the post-World War II and Cold War climate. This led Project Grudge to publicly disparage all UFO reports as the result of A. Misidentifications of various conventional objects, B. A mild form of mass hysteria and war nerves, C. Individuals who fabricate such reports to perpetuate a hoax or to seek publicity, or D. Psychopathological persons. In May 1949, officers of Project Sign received a letter from an aeronautical company which explained that the company had been building aircraft similar to the flying saucers, which were a popular topic in the press at the time. This was during the UFO craze following Kenneth Arnold's reports of UFOs over Mount Rainier and the Roswell incident. The Air Force had canvassed for reports of flying saucers, and the shareholder apparently felt that inventor Jonathan Edward Caldwell's disc rotor might explain them. Jonathan Caldwell was born in Hensall, Ontario, Canada, the fifth son and one of 12 children of William Thomas Caldwell and Sarah Alice Chamberlain. He moved to the United States in 1910 and attended Oregon State College from 1912 to 1913, where he majored in mechanical engineering. He formally emigrated from Canada in 1914 and applied for U.S. citizenship in 1915 while working as a farmer in Montana. In the 1920s, according to statements he made later in life, he became interested in aviation and began to study the fundamentals of aerodynamics. After college, he lived on the old Lipton farm in Glen Burnie, Maryland, where he became a self-taught aeronautical engineer who designed a series of bizarre aircraft and started public companies to finance their construction. None were ever successful, and after his last known attempt in the late 1930s, he disappeared, apparently to avoid securities fraud charges.
Well, a windmill will raise water, so why shouldn't it raise an airplane? Perhaps that's what Mr. Jonathan Caldwell thought when he designed and built this contraption, which is being shown to the public for the first time. The mill wheels going round are supposed to represent the flapping wings of a goose. The wheels turn all right, but it just won't leave the ground, not even when they drag it. It moves, though, and that's something. But any auto will go pretty well downhill. A good idea just the same, Professor, and better luck next time.
Tracking down the leads, the team, accompanied by the Maryland police, visited Old Lipton Farm, which was abandoned at the time in Glen Burnie, Maryland, outside of Baltimore. In a barn on the property, the damaged remains of Caldwell's disc rotor aircraft were discovered and confiscated. They also tracked down one of the former test pilots of the machine. who told them the story of the attempted flight in 1937. The team reported that the prototypes could not be responsible for the flying saucer reports that were being received from all around the country. Photographs of the broken disc rotor machine continue to appear in UFO books to this day. They were often described as crashed flying saucers in earlier works, claiming it was one more example of the Air Force having such vehicles. More recently, they are often associated with claims that the Nazis developed working flying saucers late in the war, grouped with other disc-shaped aircraft such as the Avrocar, Sake S-6, and Vought B-173, in an effort to demonstrate that such aircraft were both possible and well-researched.
One solution to the famous flying saucer mystery may have been discovered by American police in Maryland, who came across this weird-looking aircraft while searching for inventor Jonathan Caldwell, who recently disappeared. It certainly could fill the bill, but whether it's the original flying saucer, no one yet knows.
I remember someone telling me about this when I was younger. I want to say it was my grandfather, although I could be wrong. I've known about it for a long time, though. I didn't know anything about it other than that two prototype flying saucers were allegedly recovered from a barn in Glen Burnie, Maryland in 1949 by the Air Force. I didn't know any of the backstory, but I was always curious. Hopefully you found this video entertaining and informative at the very least. Thank you all for watching, and as usual, if you're a fan of urban legends, folklore, unsolved mysteries, cold cases, and all things mysterious, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel.